What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of Ohio State Football with Scarlet and Great here on YouTube. Never seen before edition. You have all three owners and hosts of Scarlet and Great in one video. We usually can't do this due to life, just jobs, time zone differences, different commitments, Corey's infatuation with children movies, and other things that creates a really busy schedule where we can't all be together at once. But we are here, and we're going to talk injury updates coming off the bye week. Ohio State coming off a bye week. Seems like every different game, right before the game, the tweets start going off. This player's out, that player's out with no notice. We're going to break down some of the key players, Mayan Williams, Mike Hall, and Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and see how valid we think these injuries are, and will we see them this weekend against Iowa. Real quick, guys, help the channel out. Make sure you have the notifications on, and we are trying to get this channel growing. So if you are not subscribed and you love Buckeye football, help us by subscribing to this channel. We're trying to get to 4,800 subs by the Iowa kickoff. We are almost there, so please subscribe. We're going to continue to bring you more news. After this show, later in the week comes a recruiting show with all three of us. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, we are going to get to my co-host, Mr. Shane Larson at the Game Time Guru, and Mr. Florida Corey. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Man, I'm doing great. This is a first timer on the show, having all three of us together. I'm stoked. Corey, how you doing, man?
Doing good, man. I remember Johnny's text. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I think he's still typing.
I do. You usually can't pull this off, but guys, it's something I want to get everybody's opinion on. And we have, we'll start with Mayan Williams. All right. Mayan Williams. Okay. Injury update. This is a guy that we watched the Rutgers game, in a game where CJ struggled and where the defense, you're facing a not super talented, but very well coached Shiano's Rutgers defense, and he just runs straight through them like they're not even there. 5 touchdowns, amazing game. He looked to me like clear number one. Some people debate that. And then the very next game, he's out. Okay. And we didn't hear any injury reports. Now, I will say there was a commenter on our YouTube show last week that commented like, hey, straight up, guys, he was injured. I saw him in a boot or something at whatever place. Okay, could be, but I didn't see any other
That
reports.
was the report. I did that show. That was the report I read on 11 Warriors. He was in a boot on Wednesday, but he still practiced, was the report. So I think it sounded like almost like precautionary, but at the same time, it's like, again, I take it as if we needed him, he probably would have played. But it's Michigan State. They were on a 3-game losing streak at the time. We were just blowing people away. And Tereven Henderson was going to be available. He probably look, we got to get into the dog days of fall and winter, or with this tough schedule coming up. We need Miyan healthy. So why put him in a game we're probably going to win? Like, we need him for Penn State and Iowa and Michigan, obviously. So.
Okay, so that's Corey's kind of just maybe saying load management. It's a tweak of an injury, could have played, probably would have played if this were 2009, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? But this is a different age. Shane, I kind of want to get your take on the opposite. Can you maybe help us lay out the case that he was actually injured?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at it from that perspective, let's be real. It's very possible he wasn't hurt until he got into practice. I mean, the Ohio State defense is a lot better than the defenses they've faced. Maybe he gets himself hurt in practice. I struggled to believe that we were holding him out for just load management. Granted, I see Corey's point as we go into the dog days of these next 4 or 5 weeks of football. It's October, November football in the Big Ten, which is run heavy with bad weather, which I absolutely hate. So I could see that. However, based on those comments that were made, I think the comment that was made was regarding like they work at a physical therapy location or something. So I'm in a boot or whatever it was. And so I mean, it's hard to tell what's true and what's not, but I would imagine he's actually banged up. And they were both getting banged up, which it's been my concern from the beginning, is his durability. He runs like a power back. He looks for contact. He searches for contact. He runs hard every single play. And so it's not surprising if he is hurt. That being said, I wouldn't put it past him it's an argument for both sides, load management and the fact that he was probably banged up. But what running back isn't banged up? What I'm concerned with is like, is this going to keep happening as we face the toughest defenses in the conference in the next 3-4 weeks? Like, I hope it doesn't. So
yeah, I'll go ahead and say I think that you guys both make valid points, and I think there was obviously some injury there, but the pattern, the coach is holding a different guy out each week. That there was no injury or not much of an injury report on previously kind of points to it's probably not that huge of a deal. You're out west there, Shane. I'll make the analogy that he runs like a bighorn sheep fights. You know, the two sheep that back up and just come together and ram each other. Now, I'm not saying he's not elusive because he does spin and make people miss too, but man, he is a hard runner. The other case someone made was Trey wasn't himself. Trey looked like he was hobbling. He said he had a foot injury. And I'm like, well, if Miyan wasn't hurt, why would you run Trey 19 times if Miyan really wasn't actually hurt? So I go back and forth. So I just want to hear from you guys. Yes or no? You comment Miyan or no Miyan if you think he's going to play this week versus Iowa. And we're going to move on to some other players. We have some discussion coming up on Jaxon Smith-Njigba, the alleged number one receiver in the country, number one receiver draft pick allegedly that throws a wrench in all kinds of things in this day and age. But before we talk about that, we're going to talk about something else. Mike Hall, will he be fully healthy? Here's a mind-blowing stat for you. Something like give or take 10 snaps versus Sparty. 7 snaps. Is that 7 real? I heard the
11
number.
Warriors documented all their snaps. He had 7 snaps.
So 11 Warriors said 7. So it definitely wasn't 7, but it was a low amount. So it was a low amount of snaps between 6 to
it
8,
was less
9
than
or
a dozen.
10. It definitely was. It might have been 7. Just kidding. 11 dubs. Anyways, 2.5 snaps.
This isn't Buckeye Scoop now. Come on, we can trust.
That's right. 2.5 sacks in 10 snaps. He's absolutely dominant. So Corey, again, like how hurt could he be?
That's a combination of things. You and I talked about it, Johnny, that Larry likes to rotate. And
does he ever?
I know, and he does. He's done that since I can remember, since the Michael Bennett days. I think is when he started getting his own guys in there. And okay, now I got the depth, I can rotate. Hall's still a young player. He's probably got a little bit of a senior driven, decisions, with Teron Vincent and Jaron Cage, because Michael Hall's outplaying every defensive tackle, at least on flashy plays. I mean, there's Zach Smith will talk about guys like Tyleik Williams who are playing like monsters, but you don't see it on the stat sheet. But he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing to free up linebackers and do other stuff. And obviously, and guys like Teron Vincent's actually playing pretty well because he's taking up space in order to get Michael Hall those one-on-ones where he's just dominating people. The flashy guy right now is Michael Hall, obviously. I wouldn't be surprised against Iowa if you don't see Michael Hall as much, and then Penn State you just see him get 25, 30 snaps, because I think the matchup's a little different with the way Iowa's offense is than what Penn State's offense is. But I'm sorry, I use the term offense loosely with Penn State or for Iowa. So, but I actually think they're gonna maybe he'll get a dozen or so snaps, but I don't think he's going to play a lot in this game. I'd be surprised.
All right. Shane, what are you thinking?
To Corey's point, I wouldn't be surprised there. I think with Ohio State, what I've seen is a trend this year, and he could very well be banged up, but I think it's all about matchups. It's exactly what Corey was saying. It's what type of offense is the opponent running? Is it going to require slants and schemes and so forth? And every lineman's a little bit different in their skill set. Obviously, Hall is our flashy guy. He's the guy who's going to get the stats. That's why you're seeing, 10 or less snaps with 2.5 sacks, but a lot of other guys are doing some of the other dirty work there. He's getting one-on-ones and getting past them. I think a lot of that had to do with the competition. However, it's hard to tell. It's so hard to tell with the Buckeyes and what they're actually doing. It's been such an odd year with the injury reports and so forth. But coming off a bye, like Corey said, I'm actually of the exact same opinion of Corey that I don't know if we'll see him a ton. Maybe we'll see him 10 to 15 snaps against Iowa. And then you're going to see him in against a team like Penn State just because of the way that they they play the game. And they're going to need their playmakers in there. And yeah, and you're coming off a bye. So whether or not he's really hurt, I don't know, but he shouldn't be now. We got 2 weeks of rest,
Right.
and you should be good to go.
All right. I have a little bit different take. A dozen snaps. You know what that might mean to Larry Johnson? He's fully healthy. I'll unpopular opinion, because I know you're not allowed to criticize Larry, because it didn't seem he did it as bad 2017 and so, but it seems the longer we go on, the worse he gets. Like, I heard a report that he's trying to see if he can sub guys mid-play. Like, if one guy can take the snap, put his hands on the offensive lineman, and then sub a guy in, and then wonder, well, I don't know why these guys aren't producing. And so I hate, look, Mike Hall is one of your best interior linemen. Now, Zach Smith did say he's really bad at run fits, and that's probably another reason he's not playing. So there's food for thought. So you can have a guy like Teron Vincent, who has had 7 tackles in 7 games, and they say he's always in the right place. You know why? Because he has no ability to be anywhere other than where he took the snap, in my opinion. I know people disagree. Teron Vincent's just a guy. He's just there. Tyleik Williams is dynamic. Jerron Cage, just a guy. Look, Larry doesn't like great interior linemen. I get it. He wants to sub them out. Whatever. Okay, I'm embellishing a little bit. I don't think you see him a whole lot because Larry just don't play him a whole lot. And, yeah, he probably does need to get better at run fits because I trust Zach Smith's eyes. And guys probably like Teron Vincent are a little better at that because if they weren't good at that, what else would they be good for? They're older. They know the scheme better. They're probably in there. All right. Here we go. Jaxon Smith-Njigba got tackled. His leg went in the air, and he stretched a little too far in that hamstring. So here he's out 2 months for stretching too far. Most of us call that a bad day at yoga. In today's age with athletes, you're out for 2 months. Maybe you never play again. Okay, I'm kidding. I'm embellishing a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Hamstrings do linger. I have a hamstring issue, and I'll tell you, if I do not manage it, it is just going to always be there. Now, granted, I don't have access to some of the facilities JSN does. I've also heard rumors that he could have played whenever in the last few weeks, but why, right? Why not? Like, why not let him get healthy? But this weekend, guys, I mean, it's been nearly 2 months, and Emeka and Marvin and these other guys are taking hits, et cetera, and at some point, it's going to be counterintuitive because he's going to need to practice. He's going to need reps. No matter how good you are, you need reps to stay fresh. So, Corey, what do you think? Are you thinking we're going to see him this weekend?
I think a little bit, yeah. You have to get prepared for Penn State. And I will say, like I said before a few times on this show, it's been a little bit of a blessing in disguise that he's been out because CD's been able to develop that chemistry with Marvin and Emeka, especially those two, going forward. And it's imperatively important that they're good in the months of late days of October and into the November. Because, if you think about if we were going into the season and we were just because, remember, Brian Day even said it himself, most of the offense was predicated on JSN. So imagine, like, say the week before the team up north, all of a sudden JSN gets a hamstring, can't play, and you haven't really developed that chemistry with Marvin and Mecca being the guys. We'd be in a little bit of trouble. We've seen that offense. We've seen against Notre Dame. We saw that offense, and it wasn't pretty. Now I trust what we have, and I trust what we can do with these guys. I think you'll see JSN a little bit. I think like 10, 15 snaps maybe against Iowa, and then you bring them back fully integrated and back into the offense against Penn State because they got to be circling that. I mean, look, you don't want to obviously you don't want to overlook Iowa. We've done that before. It did not go well, but
Right.
You do know that the next week is the circled on the calendar. Now I know Penn State just got blown out by Michigan. By the way, I called that on this podcast because I thought Michigan was just a better team. And they just ran all over them. I think Penn State's a pretender like usual. But that being said, you still got to take them seriously, especially going to Penn State.
Yep.
So I think you'll see a little bit of them this week, and then you'll see them fully back integrated in the offense for the week after.
All right, Shane, what do you say?
Yeah, you've got to get him in there this week. He's got to play. And here's the thing. I've said it, too, on the show, and I've talked to other fans about it. People might have a different opinion than me, but I don't think he's a first round. I don't even think he's the first pick of the draft. He's not the number 1 receiver. He's not. And I know that's going to piss a lot of people off, but he's not. He's had one good catch against Nebraska 2 years ago. He had one amazing game against Utah. What else has he proven? He's not durable. He's like Johnny just said, he's stretched too far. I love JSN, but we've like what NFL
hard, man.
What NFL team's going to want to like put their money and investment into a guy who has a hamstring injury and is out for 2 months? You know, like you've got to prove that you can come back and get reps. Obviously, we know that he is the talent, and I'm not saying that like we want him. He's our number one receiver, but his durability is not there. So I think you have to get him in there. And for his own sake, not just for this season, but it's for the sake of his own future.
Right. He's
gotta
costing himself money, right?
Exactly. There's a lot of factors that come into this. So I would expect him to play, assuming all the conversations that we've seen from him and Ryan Day and all the different articles that have been out. Like he was getting close to being playing anyways before the bye week. So I would expect to see him here and down the stretch, because you've got to get him in there. And that's for the sake of the whole team, because you put him in there, and then all of a sudden the chemistry's off with everybody. It's not just for him to get reps. It's for everybody to play in the same offense with him, because you go from being a number one receiver to being the number two option. There's a lot of different things that happen there. And I don't think a lot of people understand the intricacies of the game. From being a number one option to a number two option on a team, it's a little different. The coverages are different. So you're going to have to read that. So for Stroud and everybody else, I expect to see him this week and moving forward if he is fully healthy, which I thought he was getting pretty close to be. It's hard when you don't know exactly what's going on, but from the rumors, it sounded like he should be there.
All right. Well, I will give my take really quickly. I think I agree with what you guys said. You don't want a situation, case in point, Alabama. Alabama ran Georgia out of town SEC championship game. Then they're down their number one and number two receivers. About halfway through that game, the game changed. Georgia wins national championship. You don't want to get into that situation. Like Corey said, you want the other guys developed. So it is a blessing in disguise. But you do want JSN to get some reps and be back in there and not be like, still getting his legs about him while he's trying to do this. I think he should play. I just don't know if he will. I heard Larry Johnson's telling Brian Hartline, don't play him. Don't play him. If you play him, get him right back out. You do not want your best players on the field.
You mean mid-route? Are you going to say get him out mid-route?
When he gets out of his break, run straight out to the sideline. Give him an out route, but tell him to keep going and just go to the bench. But anyways, guys, I just want to know your thoughts. I hope we see him again, but man, I'm getting doubtful. Comment yes if we see JSN in a OSU jersey ever again, because in this day and age, I just don't know. But I do know we will be back next time.
Does that count if he's on the sideline wearing his jersey, but he's not padded up?
Be quiet. We will be back with a recruiting video next time. Please like, subscribe to the channel, and tell a friend. We'll be back. Goodbye. God bless, and go Bucks.